Pretty soon, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be on the clock night one in Pittsburgh. And while everyone wants to know what they're going to do in the first round, it's the back end of the draft that will largely determine how we look upon the 2026 draft class. So today, we are going to break down 5 hidden gems for the Pittsburgh Steelers in this 2026 NFL draft class. What's up, everyone? I'm Rob Gregson of A to Z Sports Pittsburgh, and today we are going to discuss 5 hidden gems in this draft class. We know that the Steelers and really everybody in the league wants to know what's going to happen with that 21st overall pick. Will they move up? Will they move back? They have 12 draft picks that they are probably not going to use, right? Nobody really sticks with 12 NFL draft picks. You move around the board, maybe you stockpile some for next year, but the bottom line is the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to make some moves. And we know, given a precedent, given their draft history, that the Steelers have certain benchmarks, that they covet certain key metrics, traits, physiques at different positions. So today, we are going to look at 5 players who fit those measurables at different positions. Let's jump right in. Our first hidden gem, a tight end out of Georgia, Oscar Delp. Now, you think of tight ends that have come out of Georgia, right? And you think of Brock Bowers or Darnell Washington, who's on the Steelers. Well, I have the Steelers going back to Athens, probably in that 3rd or 4th round, and finding a depth piece at tight end via Oscar Delp. And he's nothing like Darnell Washington, who's, 6'7", played at 311 pounds. This guy is 6'5", 240 to 250 pounds. But the difference is he has a blistering 40-yard dash. Ran in the 4.4s, is a true vertical threat as an inline tight end. You go look at some of his run blocking grades, some of his tape from the 2025 season, and you see a player who has really rounded into form as an all-around, do everything that's asked of him kind of player for the UGA Bulldogs. And I believe in Pittsburgh, he would be a tremendous asset to the duo that is Pat Freiermuth and, of course, Darnell Washington. Because if you want to go 12 personnel or even 13 personnel, you still have to pose a threat in terms of verticality. You still have to show that you can get up and down the seam. Well, Oscar Delp, honestly, alongside Eli Stowers and, of course, Kenyon Sadiq out of Oregon, is probably the best tight end in the class when it comes to truly getting down the football field. So we're looking to add weapons for the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. We're looking to make them more multiple, more dynamic. A late-round swing, a hidden gem would be Oscar Delp out of Georgia. Well, how about we stay on offense, but we look towards some protection? Cage Casey, offensive tackle out of Boise State. Now, there's going to be some polarization with him. Some people are going to say he had a good Senior Bowl. Some people are going to say he had a bad Senior Bowl. The bottom line is he's a highly productive player. Has played thousands of snaps in his college career. Didn't allow a ton of pressures. Can be a guard. Can be a tackle. He's 6'5", 315 pounds. Moves well laterally. Has a decent enough anchor to where I think that you take Cage Casey in the 3rd round or beyond, and you stick him in there, and you let him compete for that starting left tackle job. Of course, we don't know what's going to happen with Broderick Jones. We know that Dylan Cook was pretty good, but we don't know if the Pittsburgh Steelers have their current left tackle of the future on their roster. And I don't know if Cage Casey will be that, but what I do know is you bring him in, you develop him, you say, okay, can he be the starting left tackle? No, he cannot. Well, guess what? He can be a 10-year left guard in the NFL. He has that kind of power. He can run block. He's a good zone player. He can be exactly what the Pittsburgh Steelers want from a left guard, which we know they have to address one way or another in this year's draft. Let's shift to the defensive side of the ball and go to one of my favorite prospects in this class, Tacario Davis, cornerback out of Washington. Now, he started his career at Arizona, transferred to Washington, and I'll be honest, there were high hopes for him. Coming into this year, there were a lot of mock drafts that had him in the 1st, maybe even in the 2nd round. Now, he didn't really live up to that height, struggled a bit, not a ton of ball production, but the truth is, there are very few corners in this class, very few corner prospects that you will ever see that have the measurables like Tacario Davis. 34-inch arms, 6'4", close to 200 pounds, and ran in the 4.4s. He is as dynamic as a press man corner that you will find in this year's NFL draft. And he's probably going to go in that 3rd to 4th round range. And if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, what have we seen them covet in recent years? Whether it was Corey Trice, whether it was James Pierre, whether it was Joey Porter Jr., or even now this offseason, they bring in Jamel Dean. They want length. They want physicality, and they want their press man corner to be able to go out there on an island and show that he can man up a wide receiver on the perimeter. Well, I'm just telling you, you look at the tape, you look at the traits, you look at the measurables, and there's a real argument that if Tacario Davis hits his ceiling, reaches his potential, he could be one of the best press man corners that we have in this league. He's got to clean up some technique. You want to see him get better in some of the fundamentals, maybe even in his ball production, but a lot of that comes down to coaching. There are a few corners, there are a few humans put on this earth that have the kind of measurables and the kind of cornerback savvy that Tacario Davis has. Another player that fits the Pittsburgh Steelers offense and really that team culture and climate that they want is Bryce Lance, North Dakota State wide receiver. And I know the Steelers, they typically stay away from the small schools, even in the mid rounds. Maybe you'll get a late round swing. Maybe you'll get a priority free agent, but I don't care because Bryce Lance is one of the more dynamic pass catchers in this year's draft class. Well over 6'2", 6'3", 200-something pounds, went to the NFL Combine and ran a 4.3. Back-to-back seasons of over 1,000 receiving yards. And what's so unique about Bryce Lance is that, yes, I understand he played at a smaller level of competition. I understand that who he was playing against are probably not a lot of guys that you're going to see on NFL Sundays. But it's the tape that sticks out with Bryce Lance because guys that are that big, that are that long, shouldn't be able to get in and out of their breaks that well. They shouldn't be able to, once they get the ball in their hands, turn into a running back or a slot wide receiver. Bryce Lance has the chance every time he touches the football to hit his head on the goalpost. And to do that in a frame that's 6'2", 6'3", over 200 pounds with the vertical speed that is a 4.3 40-yard dash just screams Pittsburgh Steelers to me because Mike McCarthy said it. When they're talking about their wide receivers, there's two things that they're looking for: versatility and physicality. Well, with Bryce Lance, he can be that power slot who's just a big-bodied slot wide receiver, can stretch the seam vertically, run the over routes, run the digs. You can stick him out wide, get him in press man coverage, and dare a corner to get in his face because of his 4.3 speed and because of his size, because of his length, because of his height and weight. You know that he can hold up in the run game. You know that he can be dominant against big-time press man corner. So I would absolutely love this pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the mid-round. And then our fifth and final hidden gem, Alabama cornerback Domani Jackson. And again, much like Tacario Davis, this guy transfers in from USC to Alabama in 2024, puts up some pretty good tape, honestly. Really, there was a lot of buzz about him as a potential second, first-round pick. Comes back to Alabama in 2025, and similar to Davis, just wasn't nearly as good. I cover Alabama for us here at A to Z Sports. Watched every snap during the regular season. By the end of the year, honestly, he was benched for a freshman. Then got his chance again in the SEC championship, showed his competitive merit, his competitive stamina, went out there, played arguably the best game I had seen him play in a year and a half. And the bottom line is, similar to Davis, it's hard to find these kind of traits at corner. To find a corner who is nearly 6'2", 200 pounds, runs a 4.4, and has the length and the ability to go out there and play press man coverage the way that Domani Jackson did at USC and in 2024 at Alabama. So he's probably the guy on this list that you're the least confident in because of what his 2025 season was. But the bottom line is, he's a former 5-star recruit. He was at USC and he had good tape. He was at Alabama and he had good tape. And yes, he's coming off a down year. But as I said, there's just certain traits and certain measurables that you cannot teach. And if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, Domani Jackson is one of those players that you have to consider in the late round. So those are our top 5 hidden gems for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I know a lot of people, they might know some of these guys. They might have watched some of these guys. But we're talking about players who probably aren't going on night 1 or even night 2. We're talking about later round guys in those mid rounds who the Steelers could draft. And you look at who the Steelers draft and you look up in a few years and you're like, not only is this guy a starter, but he's one of the best starters on this team. So you guys, please be sure to give us a follow, like, subscribe, and more than anything, let me know what you think about these 5 players. Would you like them in Pittsburgh? And who are some of your hidden gems? Who is a player or a couple of players that you think the Steelers should take in those later rounds, who you would pound the table for if you were in Pittsburgh?